Mm-hmm.
Lionel, was that you?
You're going to lock it, Lionel?
There, I think I got it.
Can we start talking yet, Jordan?
And we are live.
I don't see myself. I don't see myself. Oh, there I am. Oh, look at that. There we go. Look at that. We're live now. You know what? I think I got to mute me. There we go. I can hardly wait till we get good at this.
Here we go.
Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be cool?
Oh,
right, let's just have a happy show, okay?
So, Lionel, are you going to? So tonight we have Lionel Strang with Modeler's Life, our wonderful podcast host.
Oh, yep. So, anyways, we got tonight. We got this is our second ever live stream, and tonight we got a special guest. We have Scott Thornton from ProtoThrottle.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Think about
Scott. Be here.
Think about Scott.
Yeah, but then you'll see all my thinned out hair. That won't be good.
And we have Mike the Spoon Ostertag from Green Bay, Wisconsin. He seems preoccupied right now. Wave, Mike. There you go. The frozen tundra of Lambeau Field.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. It literally is the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. And then we have Bruce, the moderately agitated mail boy. And finally, we have Jordan, the occasionally employed producer.
Good evening, all.
Or as we like to refer to him as Kramer. Oh, some Midwest modeler guy likes my shirt. That's Stephen Atwell. He's the guy that runs. Him and his dad have Midwest Model Railroad. All right, Scott. So we've just come back from Springfield, and you sold. Mike, are you looking for birds or what?
Well, Ron from Ron's Trains and Thing did ask, Mike, are you looking to weather something?
Yeah, maybe, Mike. Are you weathering something?
Yes, I am going to weather something.
All right. Okay. So, anyways, we just came back from Springfield, Scott, and you were there selling your ProtoThrottle. Everybody is wildly excited about ProtoThrottle. So then I got there and I interviewed you guys on Sunday morning, and it was packed around your little booth there. You were with Spring Creek. Is it Spring Creek Railroad or Spring Creek Model Railroad?
Spring Creek Model Trains.
Spring Creek Model Trains.
Right.
Yeah. So how did the show go?
It went really well. Yeah, we sold a number of throttles and met a lot of really interesting, nice people and had a good time. Some of the people that I met, I knew only from online interactions, so that's always nice to put a face to the name. So that was good.
Yeah.
And it was my first exposure to Amherst, and everything that everyone said was true. It was massive. I made my way through all five buildings, wasn't it?
Yep,
several times, and I found some gems, some vendor gems that really appealed to me and my modeling interests. So that was really cool.
So do you always have that banner up there in your studio?
No, I put that up just especially for tonight's broadcast. So
that's very cool. Very cool.
We have 4 quotes up here, and one of them is yours, Lionel. You're a quotable guy. So we stuck you on there.
Perfect. What did I say? Was it anything of
you said it's so easy to use and realistic to operate. You guys have hit a real home run here.
That's right. I used it when we were having our AML picnic in July. Shane, the young gun Mason, had one with him, and he set up a circle of track, and I used it, and it was very cool. I like the braking action the best.
Oh, yeah. So do I. Yeah. Everybody likes the braking action. And Michael had set everything up for the locomotives on our little demo layout to run absolutely perfect. So there are some things you can do with the throttle to tweak it. And of course, he knows the throttle inside and out, so he tweaks it to perfection. And then we also had the privilege of unveiling at the same time that Scale Trains unveiled their newest locomotive. We had a unit too, and we had it all set up for the throttle, so that was fun.
Nice.
Yeah. And we have Adam Pinellas is watching. Say hi, Adam. Thanks, Adam. Adam Pinellas is like the most railroady guy I think we know next to Mike. He has 7.25 inch Gale train in his yard. He has live steam. He is Adam. Write down what it is. You're in charge of some live full size steam locomotive now. He's a conductor on the California Zephyr from Salt Lake City to Grand Junction, Colorado. He is a railroady guy. Michael. So I just talked about braking action. So what do you tell us? What you are Mike Oakstertag is a locomotive engineer for the Canadian National Railway in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. You work out of Green Bay, right? But you're in Manitowoc, Wisconsin.
Right. Yeah.
And so you bought one of these throttles.
Yes, I did. Right here.
And you got it running? And you got it running?
Well, I do, but I don't have it running at the moment because I don't want the sound because once you turn the track power on, it turns all the sound on.
In your locomotive.
I'm still learning how to do all this stuff. I am a newbie at this, but it is awesome. It very much mimics exactly what we do in real life, minus the automatic brake handle, and that's only because none of the cars that we have in model railroading actually have brakes. So therefore, it doesn't really make sense to have that. But other than that, it's dead on. It's absolutely dead on. And like Scott was saying, this can be tweaked to do pretty much almost anything you want it to do. And one of the cool things that Scott was explaining to me was how you can adjust the throttle and your speed tables as to how wide or narrow the band on your speed table is, or your steps for it are. And that's cool that you can do that with this, because it makes the engine sound so awesome. So awesome. It's really, really cool. I like it a lot. I might even have to buy another one.
Yeah. Well, what Mike's talking about is a modeler can compress the speed curve within their decoders, and how it coordinates with the ProtoThrottle is, well, the ProtoThrottle, when you notch up, it notches. It has the ability to notch each sound to the correct notch on the throttle handle. So by compressing the speed curve, you can, for instance, I have compressed speed curve on my locomotives, and the maximum speed that they run is like between 22 and 24 miles per hour maximum when you get to notch 4. And then from notch 5 to 8, that's all playable just with the sound. And what it does in effect, you might think, well, that's kind of silly because I want to be able to use notch 5 through 8. Well, we're only talking about the speed. So starting a train, you could go all the way up, if you've got some momentum on the front end, you could go all the way up to notch 4, 5, 6, get a heavy train moving. It'll start out slow, and then you notch back down to, let's say, 4, and then the train's eventually going to get up to that maximum speed. And then when it's going down the track and it encounters a grade, the speed doesn't change, but you can play with the upper notches now, like the locomotives have to work harder to get up the grade. So it's super realistic, and it's easy to use, and that's how a compressed speed curve works. It's fun.
So who figured out about the compressed speed curve? Like, who did you come up with that idea, or is that something Michael worked in. Michael Peterson and Nathan Holmes are.
They are the brains behind the ProtoThrottle. They are both electric.
Hang on, Scott. I think that's kind of obvious to everybody.
Okay. You got you're telling all my secrets, Lionel. That's right. I'm just the good looking one. And they're the brains,
Yeah.
So no, they're both electrical engineers, and they're close friends, and they own Iowa Scaled Engineering, and they both live in Colorado, and they've produced a myriad of electronic products for model railroaders over the years. Some they still produce, some they've retired, but they're really nice guys, smart, and so they were the ones behind the electrical engineering and all the programming.
Okay, and
so were you just lying in bed one night, Scott, and you're thinking, geez, wouldn't it be great to have a full-size control stand out of a Jeep in my layout room, and then that's how the inspiration for the ProtoThrottle got going?
Well, that's pretty close, Bruce. I always dreamed of it over the years. I've been a model railroader since I was growing up in the 60s, and I always saw the Lynn Westcott type things and other things over the years where they made
true action throttles.
Yeah, they made kind of behemoth. Some modelers over the years have attempted to make control stands, but they were always really big. And then a fella named Bruce, and forgive me, I forget his last name. Maybe he's listening tonight, but about 6-7 years ago, he produced a YouTube video that showed a modified NCE throttle where I guess he's a mechanical or an electrical engineer himself, but he built this Rube Goldberg type of throttle on top of an NCE handheld throttle, and it had a detented throttle handle, and then for the other controls, they were like spring toggle switches. But even in that form, it was super cool. And I thought, wow, because he was operating realistically. And then when I became friends with Michael and Nathan, and we started to work on some electronic projects together, I sent Michael the video, and I said, do you think that we could create a couple throttles like Bruce's for me so I could operate that way on my layout? And we kind of have a running joke between Michael and I that anything I bring up to his attention, he always says no. And so it's always no, no, no. And so it got to the point where eventually I made him a rubber stamp with the likeness of his face on the rubber stamp with a big NO with an exclamation point underneath it. And I sent it to him. So he's always threatening me with that darn rubber stamp that he's going to pull it out of the drawer. But anyway, he agreed to do it. And we both started to work together to find the componentry, and then he designed the printed circuit board. And as it just started to develop, we took some of our very rough prototypes to the St. Louis RPM, and it just went from there. So we decided that rather than just, if we're going to do it, and we're going to do it at a certain quality level, why don't we do it for any other prototype modelers or modelers that are interested in control stand operations? So that's what we did.
So how long do you think it actually, like from conception to actual production, how long was that?
It was approximately 2 years, but boy, did I get in trouble with Michael, because about a year into it, I could be really enthusiastic about anything related to model railroading, too enthusiastic. And when we were at the St. Louis meet, people were asking us, well, when do you think this will be ready? And the St. Louis meet is in July. And I was saying, by December.
Ooh.
And Michael was like, no, stop, add another year onto that. So anyway, I stuck my
2 years, but that's, for what you, like the thing I interviewed Michael on Sunday at the train show, which I played today on the old AML network. And the thing that I wanted to get across to him was the quality of the product.
Right.
Did you guys have that in mind, like right from the get-go, that if you were going to do this, it was going to be a quality product?
Well, yes. And I knew from working with Michael and Nathan, that their products were quality from the get-go. So I had no qualms that the printed circuit board and all the electrical engineering and the programming would be top notch. And then through the process, we decided that the mechanical end of it, which I was in charge of primarily, I wanted that to be quality as well. So we went with an anodized aluminum faceplate versus plastic, because metal control stands are made out of metal, darn it. You know, they're not made out of plastic. And we didn't want it to look cheap. We wanted it to look authentic. So I worked with a local machining company in my area, and I got really lucky, because the machining company that I found was run by two young 30-somethings, and they're just getting started, and they were enthusiastic about the project, and so they were very creative. They helped me work through a lot of the mechanical end of it, and so yeah, things just kind of fell in place.
Cool.
That's great.
So, Michael, when you saw it, you like bought one almost immediately.
Well,
You saw it at Train Fest.
It's kind of a funny story. I
It's
think
a great
I almost
story.
got on. I think I almost got on IO Engineering's payroll right then and there.
Yeah, you did. It was awesome.
I was grabbing every single person that walked past me that I knew, and even a bunch that there was one guy. Scott, I don't know if you remember that. I said, the one guy kind of glanced at it. I said, "Hey, wait a minute! Don't just glance at it. Get back over here and take a look at this. Don't walk past this without seeing this." And he said, and I don't know if he bought one, but he sat there for 10 minutes and listened to the spiel, and I tell you what, it was a lot of fun. Had I had the resources and the time at the time, I would have bought one on site. But I was in the middle of one of my typical.
Michael was like one of those Ronco knife salesmen, you know. Where they,
I was wrong. There's more.
He was like, "Hey, get over here," you know. And you kind of have some of that Bostonian attitude in you, you know. He's like, "Hey, get over here, try this. What's wrong with you? Get over here," you know. And
hey, Kenny, come here. You need 6 of these. Get over.
Yeah,
here.
that's right. That's right.
That was my favorite line. Was everybody I told? They said, "Well, you need 6 of these." That was every single person.
And Mike's offered to come and be in our booth at some future RPM, and boy, are we gonna not turn that down. Not turn that down.
Great. I mean, you can't go wrong if you had an actual locomotive engineer.
And exactly, and somebody as enthusiastic and as intimidating as Mike, well, then it's a good combination, you know.
Intimidating. Yeah, with a strong arm you. Get over here, you.
Yeah, when you grab people by their collars and drag them over and say, "Hey, you can't miss this. Get over here," you know.
And I'm assuming you'd give him a shirt or something to wear so he looked like he was part of the crew.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have
triple
XL?
Force me to eat a hot dog with ketchup is what they're going to do.
Do you have triple XL shirts?
Seriously, really?
Yeah, we'll do whatever. We'll do whatever to outfit Mike for sure.
They'll take 2 of them apart and sew them together.
He needs a shirt that says, "I drive trains for a living and I endorse the ProtoThrottle."
Yeah.
You know, it's funny when you were talking about the speed curve stuff and compressing that. With the weather in the majority of the country, what it is right now. When I was at work today, we were having a really hard time pulling, and I've got a GP9 that I'm working with right now. And I kept on thinking, boy, I wonder if I could do this with the ProtoThrottle. I wonder how I would be able to do this with the ProtoThrottle.
Yeah.
Like, this would be really cool to be able to do with the ProtoThrottle. And I'm sitting here going, well, I guess if we want to do something, because I was kept on having to rock the train back and forth a little bit and keep on going deeper and deeper and deeper into notches, and I was going absolutely nowhere. And I was sitting there thinking, yeah, this might not be such a good thing to do with the ProtoThrottle. Go idle to 8 and not move at all.
So here we got.
Hang on there, Jordan. I want to. Kaylee Zhang says she stopped by, Scott, but you were overwhelmed with people and she couldn't even stop by to say hi.
Yeah, I saw when she just chatted about that, and that's disappointing because I would have liked to have met her. So
She's
next time.
She I don't know if you know this about her, but she builds turbine engines, jet turbine engines for A320s
Right.
single-handedly. She assembles the entire engine, and then she wheels it out to the plane and attaches it with 3 bolts. And I'm in negotiations with her now because I'd like it to be attached by more than 3 bolts.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't like it when you're going down the runway and the engine is wiggling. I don't like that.
Yes.
I find that unnerving. And Adam Pinellas is in charge or running now the restoration for the 223 locomotive on the Denver and Rio Grande Western.
And here's
we do have a question from Greg Javanel. You want me to read it, Jordan?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Gives me something to do. It says, do you know of any clubs that are hosting regular op sessions that are using the ProtoThrottle? He says exclusively, but I can't imagine there's any clubs yet that are using it exclusively. Do you know of any?
No, I know that there's some people who have bought the throttle that take it to their club, and we have 2 rotating throttles that we send out to anyone who wants to try a throttle for a week. And so,
really,
they could contact us, and we could. Yeah, there's one currently out, and the fella Michael would know who it is, but we didn't need it back right away, so he still has it. And I think he's had it for about a month. And but if we need it back, we'll just contact him, and then we send it on to whoever wants to try the throttle. So
there's actually a throttle out there that people can contact you, and it gets sent along the way.
Right, we have 2 of them.
2 of them. Wow.
Okay.
Yep.
And then to follow up with that, Greg Javanel also asked, how would you describe to the new users the learning curve?
Right. There is a little learning curve. It's not, in terms of operating the throttle, it takes you about 5-10 minutes to get used to it compared to your knob and keyboard throttle. But there are some features built into the throttle that we always encourage any new purchasers or anyone who's interested in it to read through the manual. The manual's not long. It's easy to understand. It's about 25 pages long, but it's easy to understand. And we say, just read through it at your leisure a couple times, and you'll have a really good grasp of how to navigate through the menus and all the features that are involved. But there are a few things that, like, we have a variable brake built into it that Michael programmed in. For example, with Loc Sound decoders, Loc Sound just recently, with their V5 decoder, they have a better brake, I understand. But with their current selects and V4s, they have a brake force command, and so you can set that. But within the ProtoThrottle, Michael built a variable brake where the brake function pulsates along the swing of the brake handle at 20% increments. So 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. So as you move the brake handle, the ProtoThrottle is telling that brake function, come on, come off, come on, come off, at different rates. So it's variable then. So as you apply less brake, it brakes less. When you apply more, it brakes more. And that was demonstrated on our little layout with the locomotives we had there, and people found it very realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, you want me to go ahead, Jordan?
Yeah,
Can I
go ahead?
All right. You're like, you know who you're like? You're like Freddie DeCordova on the Johnny Carson.
Yes.
Black out your screen and I'll just yell at you from off the sun.
Put a timer.
Yeah. So Kaylee wants to know don't do that. How compatible is the ProtoThrottle with other throttles? Example, if a loco is operated with PT, she's already using acronyms.
Yeah.
Kaylee's already using acronyms, assuming that I'll know what she means. When she says the PT, she's not meaning the PT Cruiser, is she, by Chrysler?
No.
No. Okay.
Yeah, and it's
but-
probably not physical training either. So
No. Will the momentum settings travel with the local, or are they stored in the ProtoThrottle?
No, your momentum settings are in your decoder. So you use your regular DCC system to set up those parameters. The ProtoThrottle has 12 configuration slots. So there's 12 slots available for you to put in as 20 different locomotives or consists. And so that's how you can swap back and forth between what you're operating. Some of the systems like Digitrax, I don't understand it fully. Michael and Nathan do better, but some systems like Digitrax, I think it's called, there's a term, maybe you guys know, for when they drop a locomotive. I can't remember what it is right now. But
Hang on. Do we have any locomotive engineers here? If you're a locomotive engineer, put up your hand.
Anyway, some of the system, to answer your question, I'm getting off track here. To answer your questions, it will coordinate with all the major DCC other throttles, so there's no problem there.
Perfect. I was going to ask a question.
I hope I answered her question. Maybe
I think
not.
so. Well, if not,
I'm definitely getting to the age that if I ramble on too long, I kind of forgot what I started talking about. So I have to have somebody remind me.
Brooks Willig, and by the way, Brooks, your podcast is coming out. Your interview's coming out on Monday. What day will that be? February 4th. Your interview's coming out. So Brooks wants to know: is there any way now or in the future to use this with CVP Easy DCC systems?
Yes, it already works. In fact, one of our customers, a friend of mine, James McNabb, has a CVP system, and he's already got his ProtoThrottle working with it. So there is a way, yes.
Cool. And then there's another, right after that, another fella says, some of these names, Loki B. says, learning curve. My 11-year-old daughter is operating it with ease.
Yes, and I'm glad someone brought that up, because when we were at Train Fest, I kid you not, we had a couple of young boys who were so infatuated by the ProtoThrottle, and they were in our booth all the time, almost to the point of being a little annoying, because they were hogging the throttle. But they
came up. Stay there.
Yeah, that's right. I wasn't going to name names, Mike, but now that you came clean, no, these little boys would come in and they just intuitively operated perfectly, and then it was the adults that got messed up.
Including me.
Is there a preferred decoder to use with a ProtoThrottle?
No, but like the decoder market, the way it is, each decoder has its pluses and minuses, and of course that's just the nature of the market. All the decoder manufacturers want to outdo each other, so they're all improving, and they flip-flop, and that's just the way it goes. So but in terms of like the brake feature, Soundtrax has an awesome brake feature, both a train brake and an independent brake. And Loc-Sound is improving, but like I said, with the variable brake that Michael built into the ProtoThrottle, it coordinates really well with the Loc-Sound and performs excellent. And then with TCS, they have a stepped brake, and again, Michael programmed in specifically for the TCS decoders to allow for the ProtoThrottle to work seamlessly with their brake. So we've got some of the major players covered in terms of braking.
Now, when you're talking about the different manufacturers, that's where your little receiver module comes in for your particular manufacturer. It picks up on those traits of the decoders and works specifically with them.
Yeah, that's a good question, Bruce. Thanks. I like how you guys do segues. That's great. It's like Johnny Carson,
All right, and now this commercial from Alpo.
Yeah, Ed McMahon with Alpo. I love that. All the young viewers won't understand what we're talking about. But yes, we have two receivers, and they cover all the major DCC systems. The first receiver that we put together covers lens, NCE, and DigiKeys. And then the other receiver covers all the others, which would be ESU cab control, Digitrax, MRC, CVP, JMRI, and I might be missing a few, but there's even a fellow who figured out how to get the ProtoThrottle to work with his, I believe it's called AirWire, which so that he could run his G-scale outdoor trains.
Wow.
Really?
So some guys are getting creative with it. The only system that I know that we're not compatible with, and there's probably others, but one that people have asked a fair amount about is Rail Command. Rail Command won't work with the ProtoThrottle.
Okay.
Because Rail Command, Digitrax, and MRC are all proprietary companies, while the others are more open, and they've, like, for example, NCE and ESU work directly with us to allow us to build a direct plug-and-play connection to their systems. The other ones, for example, Digitrax and MRC, you're required to buy, in addition to the throttle and the receiver on our end, you have to buy their Wi-Fi module, because our receiver talks to their Wi-Fi. And it's kind of an end around to get the throttle to work with those systems, because they are proprietary.
I think it sounds a little complicated right at this exact moment where you were explaining that, but I think it's something that's really important to explain, to tell everybody, is how well written the instruction manual is.
Right.
I remember a long time ago, a year and a half ago, must have been a year and a half ago, young Shane, the young gun Mason, was showing me, and he was all excited about the throttle. He was very disappointed that you wanted your throttle back, by the way, at that point. He was showing me, and then he was showing me the instruction manual, and I read it, and I was very impressed with how well it was written. And who's responsible for that?
Well, that was me primarily, but
yeah, come on, who was really?
Well, Michael had executive editorship, so he could always slap my hand and say, "No, get rid of that. Put this in."
Right.
I'm so glad, Lionel, that you had a chance to interview Michael, because that was something that I was always razzing Michael about, and he was always, "No, I can't be interviewed. I'm just an engineer. I hide in the corner." And but he's a really articulate, nice person, and when you talk to him, I get tongue-tied. He never does. So I'm glad you cornered him.
Great personality. Very, 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 very nice young man.
Yes.
Too young to be in the hobby, of course. Before we go on, has anybody noticed my shirt?
Yes.
It's Ron's Trains and Things, but for some reason or other, the R is backward. And I don't know if that's a typo or if it's supposed to be like that. So Ron, if you're listening, if you could explain what happened to your shirt, that would be great.
And we got a couple more questions. We got quite a few questions from the audience.
We got lots of questions, but so do I.
Okay.
Now there's Scott, you wanted to touch on the price.
Yeah, I wanted to take this opportunity, since this goes out to a lot of people. We get a lot of variety of reactions, like Mike when he came to our booth at Train Fest, and just his mind was blown, and that was awesome, and we had a lot of laughs. There's some modelers who will come up and they'll be really intrigued by the throttle, but then they're turned off by the price. And I wanted to address some of that and have some dialogue, if we could, tonight. What I wanted to say is, comparing the ProtoThrottle to a regular DCC throttle is not an apples to apples comparison. They are totally two different beasts. And I think a lot of modelers, for whatever reason, they don't recognize that. They don't see it as something radically different. They put it in the same category as another DCC throttle. And so then they're accustomed to the price points of those DCC throttles, and that's how they compare it. Well, the ProtoThrottle is a high-end piece of engineering that took quite a while for us to develop, using, like we talked about earlier, the quality componentry and the materials. And it's not simply just a plastic enclosure with a simple keypad, printed circuit board, and rotary knob. And I just want modelers, I want to help modelers understand that the throttle was developed to give diesel operators the most realistic in the cab experience possible. So again, you can't look at them the same way. I just wanted to do that as kind of a preface before I've got a couple other points I want to make. But does that make sense? I mean, it's
kind of like stereo equipment. You know, some people are going to be happy with the low to mid range stuff. Then you got the audiophile out there who's going to shell out big bucks for high quality stuff. And my opinion of the ProtoThrottle, it's not for everybody, but it's for the guy who is really into operations. Right. And he wants something that's, you know, like you said, enhances his experience. And I see these, you know, it's not going to be a guy who's got, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. Maybe some will, but more for a small layout where you got 1 or 2 engines, and these are going to be what's running your trains. And if people are into that and the operating experience, they'll recognize quality and pay.
Right. That's it. And I appreciate that. The cost initially might seem expensive to people, and granted, it is a higher priced item, but we always tell people when they come to our booth that we like to compare the total system, which would include the throttle and the one receiver, to 2 HO scale retail diesel sound locomotives, because the cost is comparable. Okay. And I think most of us have more than 2 engines in our rosters, and many have a lot more. So each individual modeler will have to determine for themselves the value of the prototypical control stand experience. Is it worth those 2 engines? Okay. So that I just wanted to get that out. And we also understand that the ProtoThrottle is a niche product, and the 3 of us are comfortable with that. I can assure all of you who are listening tonight that we are not getting wealthy producing the throttle. We're all 3 of us have day jobs. We're not like a Digitrax or an Atlas or an Athearn. We're just 3 friends who have a passion for realistic control stand experience, and we translated that passion into a product that has that inherent quality. And we don't have any plans to go to China to mass produce. We've had modelers come up to us and say, "Well, I really love that throttle, but I'm not going to buy it till it drops down to $150." Okay, and then we ask them, "Well, do you think, you know, how do you think that's going to happen?" And then they go, "Well, when the demand goes up, or when you guys go to China," and we tell them, "No, we don't have any plans." Because the ProtoThrottle is a real niche product that we're committed to producing high quality right here in the USA. And also they need to remember that the throttle was produced totally open source, which means if they want to build one for themselves and bypass purchasing it from us, they can do that in a heartbeat. I mean, everything is public, and the only thing that open source requires is that you give attribution to the developers, which is Iowa scaled engineering. And then if you improve upon the product, you make all of that public. Other than that, you can have at it, man, and build your own throttle. So if you don't
see somebody do this for $150, that's kind of the way I look at it.
Well, and what I can honestly say, and I'm not just blowing smoke, and I know there'll always be some naysayers, but I can honestly say if someone took it on and wanted to build theirs and make it comparable to what we've put together, they would quickly discover that, oh gosh, maybe I should have just bought it from them, you know, for what I spent on this thing versus, you know, because the margins aren't gigantic. So anyway, thanks for that platform. I really appreciate it. I wanted to get those few points out because we hear it a lot at the shows, and so I wanted people to know that you can't compare the two. You can't come up and say to us, "Hey, I spent $100 for my new wireless controller. How come yours isn't $100?" Well, are you looking at what you're getting? You know?
Yeah, for sure. So, and I don't think you should dwell on that too much, because I think the people that are buying it are well aware of the value of it. I mean, like you say, it's a niche product, but it's a bigger niche than you thought, for sure. That's another,
Right.
and we can tell that story.
Oh yeah. Well, I have
I
fully
love that
I do
story.
too.
I have fully embraced the AML Lionel Strang technique, approach, whatever you want to call it, because boy, oh boy, has that given me. It's been a lot of fun, but plus, Lionel, you make us look great, so thanks.
I've got a question for you. You talked about the open source, which is interesting. But my understanding right now is what you have right now emulates a EMD or GMD control
EMD.
stand.
Right.
So there's no reason why somebody who likes Fairbanks Morse or something couldn't take your open source stuff and come up with an emulation for a Fairbanks Morse control stand.
Exactly right, Bruce. In fact, there's 2 guys in Australia right now, and they're blogging about it on the MRH forum. They're trying to build a Steam version, and they're using our throttle as a base for what they're trying to do. So, if anyone's interested, go over to MRH and check out what those 2 guys are. And from what I can tell, I've read through some of their posts. They're passionate, enthusiastic, just as much as we are for diesels. These guys are Steam, but boy, I don't know anything about Steam. It's kind of a mystery to me and scares me to death. But these guys know all about it, and they're trying to develop one. So,
all right. So we got a bunch of questions, so we're going to kind of do them. We only got about 20 minutes left, so we're going to blast through them, short answers, so that we can try to make sure everybody gets their question in. What the young fellow there? What's your name again? Oh yeah, it's Jordan. Jordan, the occasionally employed producer. Can you put me on the big screen so Ron Marsh can see that I'm wearing his shirt?
Oh, jeez.
I want. Like I'm just on the little screen. Can you make me the big screen guy?
Yeah,
All right.
I can do that.
There I am. Look, Ron. I'm wearing your shirt, buddy. I don't understand what's happening with this R over here, or that over here, but anyways, I'm wearing your shirt.
Okay,
So let me blast through these questions. You can put Scott back up on the big screen there if you want. Let's see, where were we? All right. I know you mentioned the capping and speed tab. All right. Oh, Kaylee Zhang saying Kaylee Zhang right now is pulse width modulated. Robert Frischella, how does the ProtoThrottle work with Lokesound's full throttle feature? Would that recreate Mike's scenario of notch 8 and going almost nowhere?
yes. In fact, in our demo booth, we have a variety of locomotives. This at Amherst, we had almost all Lokesound on there, and we program. The throttle has a large auxiliary button. I think I could show it here. Well, here, let me get the right demo. It's right.
Did you get a pedicure, Mike? Did you get a pedicure?
Oh yeah.
Did, just for
Here,
the
Mike, we're doing it at the same time. But we program the drive hold to that function. It works great because it's it's a latch on, latch off button.
All right, Sparky. He says good evening, Kaylee Zhang, and blah blah blah. Okay, how much does the ProtoThrottle weigh? It looks hard to handle or hold on.
No, I think it was like. I weighed it one time. I could weigh it again. I think it was like 14 ounces, something like. It's not that heavy. It's comfortable. It's comfortable.
What about TC? Kaylee Zhang wants to know what about TCS's dynamic brakes?
Yes, that's what I spoke of earlier.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. We can move along. I have Martin Sant. He says I have the loaner, and I'm working on scale dead rail. So okay, and he put a link there. So there's one of your loaners is out there.
Mm-hmm.
Does ISC publish recommended decoder settings? Oh, ISC. It's another. See, that's another acronym.
That is
Iowa Scaled Engineering. Publish recommended decoder settings for ProtoThrottle use. A local layout has 2 ProtoThrottles, and the owner said he had to do a lot of tweaking to get the most out of his locos with the ProtoThrottle.
Well, if they go onto our website, iascale.com, and go to the FAQ go to the ProtoThrottle page, and there's an FAQ section in there that Michael put together, and it's fairly extensive. I think modelers would enjoy reading that. Plus, there's links within the FAQ where they can go to specific spots in the ISE blog where he shows modelers like how to set up the lights and other functions. And we also have a forum on the groups.io site. So if you go to groups.io and search for ProtoThrottle, you'll find our forum. And if you join, then there are files on there that model, like for example, I have done a lot of programming and tweaking for my Loc sound decoders on my layout. And I just took that CV file and loaded it to the group's forum. So you could download that, put it into your Loc programmer, throw those CVs in, and you would have what I consider hyper-realistic performance immediately in your ProtoThrottle. So yes, there are avenues to do that.
So I think this next question might kind of be on that. It's how much of the features are programmed in the decoder versus the throttle, i.e. once I make light functions work with the throttle, will I have to map those to a new function on my regular DCC throttle?
You may have to.
Okay. You're not sure.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Sparky's 107 says it's too big to put down. I disagree, Sparky. I had plenty of shelves on my layout, so there was not a problem. Look at this. You know what? Chris Stilson put his name. Did I read Chris's question? He put his name at the end of his question. Let me see. Yes. Chris Stilson, I'd like you to mention the capping of the speed table covered in the manual and other document on your website. Did we cover that? That was from Chris Stilson.
Oh, you mean compressing the speed curve so you can...
Okay, yeah, all right. Okay. That's what we talked about. Okay, cool. Yeah. So Chris put his name at the end of, if you're going to ask a question, if you can throw your name in there.
Wait, I don't mean to interrupt, Lionel, but a modeler named Joe Atkinson already did that on the MRH site. So he's got his compressed speed curve with screenshots and everything. So if you did a search for Joe and compressed speed curve, he'll find it
on the MRH site.
Right.
Okay. Model Railroad Hobbyist.
Yes.
That was another acronym, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
It's like you're working in government or something.
Yeah, exactly. Had a rule against acronyms.
That's what I was about to say.
I know. I don't really
he's coming around slowly.
I'm not coming around.
He's wearing an acronym.
Exactly.
I'm wearing an acronym. I'll put me on the big screen again. Put me on the big screen again, Jordan. Just put me right up there. I'm wearing an acronym. It's Ron's trained in things, and his English is terrible. In things. Look at that. It's Ron's trained in things. Terrible English. All right. Let's see. Martin sent. I have the. Okay, we got there. Okay, we got to go back down here. Let's see. We'll keep working our way down. Adam Pinellas, dollars. They would still complain. No, Adam Pinellas. I steal at twice the price. So Adam Pinellas is the fellow that.
There you go.
We like that. We like that guy.
Yeah. So you know what? You got your two railroaders, Adam Pinellas, who was a locomotive engineer for the BNSF and now works as a conductor. You got two railroaders here that love the thing. They just think it's well worth the money. Right. Tom O'Connell. I had no issue with the price of mine. The cost is equal to two locomotives with sound. The quality is super, and I love mine. It is not for everyone, but it is great for switching. There you go.
Yep.
There, Brooks Willig, you talked about this. He asked about any thoughts about Steam in the future. Yep. Tom O'Connell, I love to operate and have switching. I have a switching layout. My 7-year-old grandson is probably better at using it than me. Wow.
There you go.
Let's see. Martin Sand. It's a fine product, quality engineering. Let's see. Adam Pinellas. Okay, Adam, here's another question. I plan on getting two. Wow. Adam plans on getting two, as my railroad operation is based around helper service. So I think these would be absolutely put you in the seat of a 12,000 ton cold drag. Super excited to get them. Is that correct, Mike?
Oh yeah.
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 Did I wake you up?
Yeah.
Did I wake you up?
Even with me playing around with the one at Springfield on Sunday, while you were interviewing him, Lionel, you could really, it really has that feel. I mean, I've only operated a couple real life locomotives, but still, you could really feel how if you're running a heavy train on a layout, you could feel like you were operating the real thing.
Here's one from a couple of comments from Tom Klomoski. We interviewed him. Tom, your interview's coming up soon. That's a really good interview. Beautiful layout. So he says the quality of the ProtoThrottle is top notch. The throttle is not heavy, and I've used it for over an hour, and the size and weight were not an issue. Mm-hmm. So there you go.
Yep.
And then, I saw you had it with a really coul lanyard. You've had it hanging on a lanyard around your neck and stuff too.
I was just going to say something about that. Give you an awesome lanyard.
Yeah, I know they're cool. We should get some of those for the old AML network.
We should.
We'll take them out of my pay.
I should tell you too that we're working on a fascia holder. So that's something, it's in development right now. So we're testing the prototypes. So it'll be very affordable and something that you can just pop your throttle right on the fascia.
So Tom talks about that. If you don't have a spot to set it down, the ProtoThrottle comes with that great lanyard to hang it around your neck. Tom O'Connell says with the lanyard, it weighs 15 ounces.
Yep.
Let's see. Thank you, Scott, for the answer, and thank you for reading it, Lionel. You're welcome. Texas Squirrel Hunter. Squirrel. That's right up your alley there, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tom O'Connell says, Sparky, head over to ProtoThrottle to groups and tell us where you live, and someone in the area might be able to let you try theirs. I'm in Wisconsin. Adam Pinellas, I'm glad I caught as much as I did. Got to run 400 miles of railroad to tear up. I'll keep kicking ass. Greg Javanello. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We're on the top side.
He loves being a conductor. Greg Javanello. Could the NMRA play a role in helping standardize programming across different decoder and hardware brands? Would you welcome that?
Well, that's the biggest question of the night.
Wow. That's
Should we give him a prize? He lives in New Orleans. Does that matter? And we should mention, I'm sorry, Scott, if I've cut you off, although I didn't hear any noise coming out of you. We should mention, this would be a great opportunity to mention that if next year at Springfield there's an app for everybody to use, Greg Javanello played a huge part in that. So that's pretty cool. So we want to make sure we give him credit for that. All right, you answer that question, and then I'm telling my story because I've never been able to tell it with my face.
Okay. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
The question is, could the NMRA play a role in helping standardize programming across different decoder and hardware brands? Would you welcome that?
Well, yeah, I would welcome that in a heartbeat, because one thing with ESU is they're a German company and they seem to set their own, what do you call it, specifications in that regard, and it's never the two shall meet. And it's like, that's difficult for modelers to get their different decoders to coordinate with each other. So some sort of unified specifications would be awesome, but I don't know how it's going to happen when you've got manufacturers over here, over there, that sort of thing. Okay.
So now I'm going to tell my favorite story of Scott. This is my favorite. This will forever be my favorite Scott story, although I'm looking forward to the next Scott Thornton story. So put me on the big screen, will you?
You're already on.
I want to be a star. I want to be a star. Yeah, I guess there's like a 7-second delay or something, is there?
There is.
Yeah, there's a delay. So anyways, the way this works is, I'll give the short version. So I meet Scott at the Chicago RPM meet. He's sitting in the ESU booth, and basically Soundtracks and ESU are fighting over this guy. ESU's got him sitting there, and they got his throttle hooked up to a test track, and Soundtracks, George Bogatuk's on the other side of the the aisle, and he's looking at him. And when I went back, he's with George Bogatuk, and these two guys are like, come operate on my setup. So I sit down. I'm thinking, okay, well, this must be an interesting guy. I don't know what this is. It was my first real foray into doing interviews on the road on purpose. I'd done a couple in Orlando at the national convention, but that was more of a test. So I sit down and I talk with this guy, and I'm like, what is this? And he was as we have learned tonight, Scott's a very engaging fellow, great talker. We had a great conversation. So we get towards the end, and I say, so this is really cool. So how many are you hoping to sell next year? Like 500? And I get this. 500?
Like the
Yeah, 500. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I'm way off base here, but this seems like a really cool thing. But obviously, I'm not in touch with the industry. So I go, well, do you think you'd sell 100? 100?
Mike's good at it. I like your expression, Mike. That's good.
Do you think we'd sell 100? And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, and then in my brain, I'm thinking, well, why are you making it? Why are you sitting here?
I
Why
only
are you
wanted
making-
I only wanted 2. That's all I wanted.
So what you're saying, Scott, is it's kind of like what the podcast started out as. He wanted to hear the sound of his own voice, and it's mushroomed into doing live streams now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Put us all up for the last few minutes there.
I'm going to actually, for Train
Jordan?
Fest, I'm going to have a shirt made that it's on the back. It's going to say, "Do you think you're sell 100?" Lionel Strang underneath
Yeah.
it. That's
Yeah, we already agreed at Amherst or Springfield that if Lord willing we ever hit 500, Lionel will have to be there for the 500
I think so, yeah.
sale, and we're going to have a party, which is, I have to mention, this next year, and I'm not sure when we're going to do it, but we're actually going to set up an auction to auction 2 throttles, and all the proceeds for those 2 throttles go to Lionel's
Yeah, show your shirt there. Show your shirt there.
cancer fundraiser. So
Yeah.
one more year.
So yeah,
So-
quick.
We're gonna weather the 2 throttles so they look like beat up, prototype control stands, and then auction them off. So people can keep that in mind, because if they want to have if they are enthusiastic about the throttle and want one, and they want to purchase one for a really, really good cause, that's your opportunity. There's only going to be 2 of them.
So yeah,
That's
we'll just give a brief synopsis, and you can help me out on this, Bruce. See if I cover all the points.
Okay.
So I got involved with the cancer hospital in Toronto, Princess Margaret Hospital. I diagnosed with cancer, pretty bad. And anyways, I learned over the last few years that the worst part of having cancer is the mental anguish. So I help out so far we've raised $36,000 for the hospital for the psychosocial clinic, which helps people with dealing with the cancer from a psychological point. It helps the families. It helps everybody involved that has to deal with that particular patient's cancer, and it does a lot of good work. And I came up with this really bird brain idea, didn't I, Bruce?
Well, maybe not bird brain, but you came up with an idea. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
a fantastic idea.
Yes.
So 2 years ago, I walked from the hospital because the doctor said to me, he kept saying, "So how do you feel?" I was 3 years in. He said, "So how do you feel?" And one day I was trying to explain it to him. I went, "Well, I feel good enough to walk from here to my house," which was 60 miles or 100 kilometers. And then I went, "Hey, that's a good idea." And I did it. And you know what I was thinking, Bruce, about when I got about a quarter of a mile from the hospital?
What was I thinking?
What the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
Oh, we've done it 2 years in a row, and I hope to do it for another 10 or 20. So there you go. So, Scott, that is totally awesome that you guys are going to do that. I guess we do the walk and the barbecue at the end of August, so maybe we'll do it like around the 1st of July or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be great. And Michael and Nathan are all in too, so it's we're happy to do it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to see what happens. So I hope that there's at least 2 modelers out there that see the ultimate value in helping those individuals with the trauma of cancer. And
You'll have to get Mike Ostertag to send you a picture of his control stand and be the Mike Ostertag special edition.
yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's funny you say something because I just took a picture of my control stand.
There you
not
go.
too long ago.
And I remember somebody commented about the upcoming video here is that is all it needs is a dull banana sticker or something to go on it.
Oh,
So let's jam in a couple more comments and questions, and then we'll call it a night. Randy Timmerman says he tried the throttle in St. Louis RPM and loved it. He's going to get 2 or more of them. Greg Giovanello from New Orleans, do you think this would help the adoption of the technology for you as well as other model railroading innovators?
Here's one that talking about weathering the base plates.
Okay.
If someone wanted to weather their ProtoThrottle face plates, can you re-silk screen the face plate? If so, what would it cost?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what they mean because we have, if they're referring to the lettering, the minimal lettering that's on the faceplate, we have it etched in.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that anodized aluminum accepts paint extremely well. So, and it's very easy to take the faceplate off of the printed circuit board. So it's as easy as unscrewing the 4 plastic handles, and then there's Mike can be my and then there's 4 that's great. There's 4 screws that not the main ones, but the 4 other screws, and you unscrew those, and then the faceplate just pops off, and then just wash it, clean it, spray it with primer, and then your paint, and go for it.
Let's see. Okay, a couple more, and then we'll call it a night here. What? What are you laughing at?
I was watching Wheel of Fortune before we did this. I'm like,
Just a quick question. There's been some comments about the batteries on these. They're kind of built in awkward, but what's the typical life of the battery when you're operating the throttle?
Well, the throttle, if you put the throttle in idle and the reverser is centered, the throttle will go to sleep. So when you're not operating it, it conserves batteries. It also has the ability for you to physically turn it off. And if Tom Klomoski's still on there, he can give you some idea. But we've heard that it can go, even up to between 5 and 10 operating sessions from 1 to 3 hours, and they're still going strong. But the printed circuit board is completely connected to the faceplate. The box is totally separate. So when all you do is back out those 4 screws, pop off the box, put 2 new batteries in, which can be regular batteries or rechargeable, and you're good to go. So
all right,
there's a pretty good life to the battery use.
Kaylee Zhang came up with a great idea. You should have an autographed faceplate on the number 1 with a serial number on number 500.
And we should.
You should put the number 500 on the faceplate. That would be pretty cool.
And we should have it. We should have it signed by you, Lionel.
Yeah, or you, or a picture of you like this.
Yeah, exactly.
A couple more points. Scott hit the point. Tom Klomoski. Scott hit the point about the ProtoThrottle was made by modelers for themselves, and then they offered it to the public. So it was built right from the beginning. Wow. Mark Stafford said that's a good idea for 500 and 501. He likes that. Kaylee, you not only can you build turbine engines, you can also come up with great ideas for ProtoThrottle. Let's see. Great stuff. Okay. Here's Ron's Trains and Things. Ron, do you see that I'm wearing your shirt, buddy? You might want to keep that in mind.
I never should have made the Vanna White comment.
What were you thinking?
I just don't get this backwards R. I don't get that. I guess he was trying to be hip or something. Martin Jenkins says, hey, Jordan, tell Lionel it's hot in Australia today.
Well, since you saw it, I don't have to do that.
Let's see what else we got. Oh, Michael Peterson.
Oh,
Peterson. I think, isn't he somehow associated with the ProtoThrottle?
yes, he is. He must have landed safely. That's awesome.
Michael Peterson says, battery life, we can easily make it through a full show weekend with almost constant use. So that's
There
like
you
2
go.
days. So they're about 16 hours. And it's only 2 AA batteries anyways, isn't it?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so it's no big deal anyways. Tom Klomoski is using quality rechargeable batteries to get several hours. And finally, Ron says his shirt makes me look good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good.
All
it's
right.
a nice color. It's a nice color.
All right. So I think we got to the end of the show. We had a lot of good questions, a lot of good interaction. What'd you think, Scott? How was it?
Oh, I loved it. It's always fun with the AML group.
There you go.
Good. Now, do we want to give out our email address?
No, we don't want anybody to email us.
Okay,
No.
fine.
No, it costs me too much work.
Yeah, poor Bruce. He's been sitting there.
Yeah.
He hasn't had to do anything all night.
All right, Bruce, go for it, buddy.
Our email address, because we would love to hear from, in this case, all our viewers, because you are viewing us. Our email address is modlerslife@gmail. Okay.
Time out. I'm throwing the flag. Time out. I just, shouldn't it be for all our listeners? For this, it should be our email address for all our listeners.
What?
Oh, I got you. A little bit of funny there.
Yeah, see, when we're doing the audio, we say for all the viewers.
Yes.
Viewer mail.
Okay, take 2.
All right. Go.
Our email address for all our listeners, because you're not watching us, modlerslife@gmail.com. That modlers with 1 L at gmail.com.
All right.
Oh, it's good.
And we have a website, modelerslife.com. If you go there, you can find a link to our Facebook page. You can find the post, all the shows listed for the last 6 or 7 months. You can find a link to our Patreon page, and if you want to listen to more stuff, all you got to do is pay $5 a month, and there's all you'll get access to everything. And what else? Anything else? Have we covered it all?
I just wanted to say one last thing. I wanted, for all those who've supported us, we really appreciate it, and we're always here for you. I love talking to the ProtoThrottle users, and some of them I've talked at length on the phone. So we like to support our customers. Yeah, the guy below me.
And remember, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to end this thing, buddy?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And remember, the Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10 Iowa scaled engineering employees.
True.